You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. Your hosts are Patrick and Catherine Andrews.
Join us each week as we explore a wide range of metaphysical topics such as dreams, astrology, intuitive readings, and life purpose. You'll receive practical guidance so that you can live your most awesome life.
Learn more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com and connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, Oneness Talk Radio, TalkStream Live, and TuneIn. We are here in the Heartland, holding the energy for spiritual truth and awareness. I'm Patrick.
I'm Catherine. Glad to be here, everyone.
So today we are very excited. We have Jenny Harkleroad, and she is the Balanced You owner, founder, and she is a mind change expert. First, she was a student, and now she is a mind change expert. Jenny has changed old patterns in herself that were hurting not only her relationships, but that were affecting her physically, emotionally, even in her business. After her first experience with the power of the subconscious mind overcoming chronic pain and addiction, she noticed that the old patterns she'd been fighting for decades were already altered, and that her life had changed almost overnight for the better. So after years of searching for answers and trying to make changes in her life, Jenny was thrilled with her results. So she immediately went out. She wanted to share the blessings of this scientific process of mind reprogramming, and she wanted to share it with others to create more time, more money, better health and wellness, better relationships, and better business success, and to help people live a pain-free life. So, Jenny, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, I love sharing this process. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to let people know about the power that they have inside to make changes.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is something that I know that our listeners are very interested in hearing about. So can you tell us a little bit, starting out, about your background and how you got into this healing field?
Absolutely. So I was actually in San Diego real estate. I had a big real estate business. I had 5 buyer's agents and 2 full-time secretaries, and we were producing double digits in the millions, which meant I had the houses and the cars and the travel and all of the fun stuff that money could buy. But I was putting on a happy face on the outside, but on the inside, I was really struggling. I was struggling with chronic pain. I was struggling in my marriage. I was struggling in my career. It wasn't actually my passion. And I didn't know how to change these internal struggles, so I tried to ignore them and put on a happy face and tell everybody and myself that I was happy and healthy and terrific, but it was really quite the opposite. And so I got into this because I basically came to a place that we'll talk about as we get into the show. There was a certain day that something dramatic, drastic, life-altering happened to me. And I came to this realization that something's got to give. And all the things I've been trying so far to make changes in my life haven't worked. There has to be an answer. And I searched and searched and searched until I found the answer. And literally that answer, I think it's better than a magic wand. I mean, it literally works that well. And so now I just can't stop talking about it. So that's how I got into it, through my own pain and struggles that we'll get into today. I was able to transform all that and find a process to do that. And now I share that with the world.
So, Jenny, I love what you do, because as metaphysicians, you know, we believe everything happens from the inside out. And so there's so much out there in the world where they try to, you know, heal the symptoms, work from the outside in, and it never produces permanent results. And so because you're focused on the subconscious mind, which we believe, everything starts from there. So you are getting to the root of everything, which is why I think, you know, it's so powerful what you do.
Absolutely. The subconscious literally controls us 95 to 99% of the time, processing 40 million bits of information per second. And so if we consciously think we can fight that, we're fooling ourselves. And that's why sometimes you want to change and you're like, oh, it's so hard to change, because you're like out of alignment with who you really are, what your programming actually is. And that programming sometimes is great, and that programming sometimes is not so great. It's something that you picked up somewhere along the way, something negative, like you're not worthy in some way for love or for goodness or success. And so we've got a process where we can transform those limiting negative beliefs that keep us from living who we are, our divinity and our purpose. It's powerful.
Well, and because we, have been doing readings for people over the past 20 years, past life readings, what we have seen is that, what you're talking about, a lot of these attitudes and beliefs, people have been repeating for lifetimes. So it's so ingrained and sometimes then becomes such a part of us, we're totally unconscious of them.
Absolutely.
And do you find that a lot of times when you uncover these beliefs for people that they're totally unconscious that they have those beliefs?
For sure. I can think of an example. This week I was working with a client who was struggling with some anxiety, and we found out it was a body image issue that he didn't even know he had. But we're able to do, through a form of applied kinesiology, a muscle test to figure out what the subconscious believes and doesn't. And this thing came up that he was like, what? Like, I didn't even know I had that. And we helped him reprogram that in his subconscious. And all of a sudden, he's like, wow, I feel different. I feel calm. I feel happy. I feel relaxed with this, like, thing that was there that I didn't know what it was. It was just like this pain, this weight, and I wasn't aware of it. So powerful. We don't know it's subconscious. And really, in our society, we're trained not to let out all our emotions, like to act appropriately, right? And so a lot of times we block what we're feeling, not only from others, but from ourselves. And then it manifests in other ways. And, in the U.S., we spend $40 billion a year on chronic pain relief. In Australia, they spend more on pain relief than cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes combined. And it's like, where is all this pain coming from? Well, the pain is coming because we do not allow ourselves to be who we are and to understand ourselves and to live our divinity and purpose. We're trying, we're like almost like these robots, you do this and you don't do this, and you say this and you don't say this, and you feel like this. And when you're trying to be like that, you can't be who you are. And there's like this discord, disconnect, tug of war going on within. And it literally causes pain in the body. And I experienced that myself most of my life. And, I was taking a lot of times 30 ibuprofen a day just to deal with the physical pain that I was having. That there was no diagnosis. There wasn't anything like wrong with me. But I had all this pain, and it's fascinating, that connection. Once you make that connection, your mind and body, and spirit, it's all together. It's not separated. So when there's something wrong with the body and you go to the doctor and they're like, just talking about the body, it's like you're missing 2/3 of the equation. Not to say that doctors aren't great. They're amazing. They have a place for sure. But for me, struggling with chronic pain my whole life, nobody could figure me out. And the reason was because we were only trying to figure out the body. And so as soon as we would think we figured out the body and got rid of that pain, it was like whack-a-mole. Another pain would pop up, and it's like, what is going on? Well, my system was trying to tell me something, and I was not getting the message. Thankfully, I finally...
Well, now, so when I met you back in February and heard your story, it was incredible. So can you share that event back in 2013 about what happened to you that really spurred you to wake up?
Yeah. Yes. August 10th of 2013 was the beginning of my awakening. And what happened was I was hiking with my husband and a bunch of friends. We had camped overnight. We were at Mount Laguna, California, And we had kind of gotten separated from the group we were with, and my husband and I were just standing on this rock ledge. And he said, if I was young and in shape, I'd jump off of here. And I was feeling kind of prideful because I was in great shape. I was at the gym every day, eating really healthy, and the hike was so easy for me, and others were totally winded, having to sit and rest, and my pride got the better of me. And I thought, I'm young and in shape, and I jumped. And while I was in the air, I'm thinking, when I land on the rock below me, that's going to be a lot of impact. And I'm probably going to blow out my knees. So I'm going to bend my knees a lot when I land so that I don't blow out my knees. Problem with that thought was when I landed, I basically landed on my feet but slammed down on my butt at the same time because my knees were so bent and the force just took me all the way down. And when that happened, I heard a crunch in my back and I couldn't move. I just started I was frozen. I was in shock. I started making this crying weird noise. And my husband was like, you're fine. Get up, walk it off. And I was like, no, I'm not. Help. And what happened was I couldn't move. And some of our friends caught up with us and they were trying to move me. And I was in so much pain, immediately. I knew something major was wrong. And so they ran back to camp. They brought up a chair. They thought maybe they could get me in the chair and carry me out. I wouldn't even let them touch me. I was just something was bad. And so they called 911, and 911 works when you're out of a service area, thank goodness, because we were in the boonies. And they said, well, if she's not bleeding out, then we have to send in a ground crew first to assess her. So I'm laying on the side of the mountain, screaming. Literally, vultures are circling me because of the sounds I'm making. They know I'm dying. I'm their next meal. And I can see this ground crew hiking in through the forest in their yellow suits. They look like they're 1,000,000 miles away. Oh my gosh, they're never going to get here. So I think it took them about an hour, which felt like, 3 weeks or longer. And when they got to me, they said, yes, you need life flight. And I was like, yes, I know. I could have told you that. So life flight comes, and I'm on the side of a mountain, so they have to zip line a doctor down from the helicopter. They flip me over flat on my back, which I was screaming even more. They put a neck brace on me. They taped me to this board, and then they zip lined me up to the hovering helicopter. So I am in pain, screaming, thrashing. I hate being held down. Now I'm stuck in this position that's the worst imaginable pain ever. They get me into the helicopter. They shoot me with morphine, and I, slowly calm down. And the next thing I remember is I wake up in the hospital, and they're reading me the results of the imaging, which I guess I wasn't even awake for because I don't remember that. And they basically tell me that I had broken my back. And it was like, what? Wow. So what does that mean? And they say, well, the good news is your spinal cord isn't severed. You're not paralyzed, but you're pretty immobile. So what you're going to have to do is go home and stay in bed for a long time. And slowly your body's going to heal. You don't need surgery. It's not, things aren't out, crazy out of alignment. They're just broken. So the bones will heal and you'll be able to move again eventually. And that was so, that information, that news was so hard because I am a go-getter. Remember, I've got this real estate business. We're producing double digits in the millions. My greatest claim to fame, though, is my 4 kids who are now 22, 19, 16, and about to turn 13. And I'm thinking, how am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to take care of my business? I was very involved in the community, fundraising and just community service projects. I was the leader of an organization of my church. I was a gym rat. I was there every day. And I'm like, how can I be bedridden? How do I live my life? How do I do this? And so what do you worry about first when you're bedridden? My vanity was my worry. I'm going to get fat laying here. That was my first worry, which is really silly. But that thought had me research health. And I learned so much from that process that I totally changed how I ate. I actually ended up losing weight, being immobile, which is crazy because of the change in my diet. And I wrote a book called 101 Things I Wish I Knew Before I Fed My Children, because everything I was reading, I was like, oh, I did it all wrong. Gosh. So that was good information. That was helpful information. But really, there's a lot more important things in life than, losing a couple pounds. So the next thing was I wanted to heal. I wanted to get better. And I'm going to fast forward and make this long healing story shorter. But I'll tell you that 3 years later, I still could not even sit in a chair. So when they told me in the hospital, it'll probably be about 6 weeks before you're moving pretty well. 6 weeks sound like a death sentence to me. So imagine now, 3 years later, I still can't even sit down because the pain is so intense. And let's back it up a year. 2 years into that, I ended up having major back surgery. They put in rods and screws and a synthetic disc because I had done chiropractor and acupuncture, massage and physical therapy and pain pills and pain injections and everything, and I couldn't get better. So I thought, it has to be my back. Let's do the surgery, and then I'll be better. And I wasn't. It didn't help my pain. And so the awakening came because of the doctor said, sorry, lady, this is just how you're going to have to live. And I was like, no. You don't understand. I cannot live like this. I will not live like this. There has to be an answer. And at that time, we were still just working on my body, right? We hadn't looked into the mind. We hadn't looked into the spirit. And so I decided to just start trying other modalities that other people told me about. I asked everybody, what do you do for back pain? What do you do for back pain? What do you do for back pain? I also had a hip problem as well, which if you want to read my book, it's called Breaking to Be Me. You can hear the story about something happened with my hip as well in this accident. So anyhow, I found a medical doctor turn emotional kinesiologist. I thought it was crazy. I didn't think it was going to work. I thought it was totally woo-woo. I had never experienced that realm of life. I would say I was religious. I believed I had a spirit. I believe I am a spirit. I believe I progress as a spirit, but I didn't connect it with my physical body and the pain that I had been experiencing, not just from breaking my back, but through my whole life of chronic pain, starting in elementary school. Middle school, I was prescribed prescription painkillers, and all the way through, there was always something wrong with me. And so when I met this doctor turned emotional kinesiologist, he started doing muscle testing with me, which I was familiar with. My dad, as I grew up, was a chiropractor, and he did muscle testing, so I knew that process. But what shocked me was when he was muscle testing to see what was true to my system. And if you don't know what a muscle test is, it's basically like a built-in lie detector test that your system has. And you can figure out what's true and what's not true to your system based on the strength of your muscles in a test. So I thought my pain was structural. And when I would say that my pain was structural, the muscle test would fail. It wouldn't hold. And I thought it was the most bizarre thing. But when I said that my pain was emotional, the muscle test held like iron. And I said, this, no, it can't be. This is my back. This is structural. Like, here's my medical file. This can't be my emotions. And he said, well, that's what the muscle test is saying, so let's just talk for a minute. Like, tell me about your childhood. And I said, no, I don't talk about my childhood. And he said, why not? And I said, because I just don't like to think about it. And he said, well, then tell me about your marriage. And I said, no, I don't talk about my marriage. And he's like, okay, so you're telling me you have no emotional pain, but you won't talk about all this stuff. And I'm like, exactly. I'm happy and I'm healthy and I'm terrific. I just have chronic pain. So I had this huge disconnect. And the poor guy, he was like, I don't know what to do with you, lady. Like, there's the door. And I was like, no. Like, I'll just try it. I don't believe it, but I'll just try it. And what happened to me was I had to get in touch with myself and what was really going on in my life. I had to talk about the problems in my childhood. I had to talk about the problems in my marriage. And 6 sessions later, basically 6 hours later, I was completely pain-free. Completely. Like, the pain shut off like a light switch. And I literally had my life back. And it fascinated me. How did talking about this stuff transform my pain? So I instantly became completely disinterested in real estate and became fascinated with the power of the mind and what just happened to me and how did that work and how come none of the doctors along the way asked me these type of questions, helped me see this connection between body, mind, and spirit and what was subconsciously going on that I was blocking from myself. And so that day, August 10th, 2013, really, that was the best day of my life because it got me in touch with myself and able to heal not only my pain, but once my pain was gone, then I healed my marriage problems, and then I got over my painkiller addiction, and then I transformed my self-esteem. And it was just one thing after the next. Wherever there was a block, I now knew how to tap into the subconscious mind and reprogram it, actually open the brain bridge, the corpus callosum, build new neural pathways in my subconscious mind so that I was living my divinity and purpose and, doing a job that I loved. I left real estate. I walked away from millions of dollars. I put a for sale sign in our big house. We moved into one of our rentals. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting on track with me and my purpose because I want to feel happy and healthy and enjoy my life, not feel mad, bad, sad, and in chronic pain all the time. So that is why that was a good day for me.
Wow, that was quite a story. Now, Jenny, I do want to bring up a question here because we talk about the subconscious mind and the role that it plays in health and healing. And you were talking about the subconscious mind, but I know that there's a lot of different philosophies and descriptions of what the subconscious mind is in psychology and metaphysics. So from your perspective and your work, could you describe for us what you mean by subconscious mind and what is the role? How does it work?
Yeah. So I think here's the most important thing to realize is that the subconscious mind controls us 95 to 99% of the time based on our programming. It's the perception through which we view our life. It's the printout of our life. So if you want to know what you subconsciously believe, you just look at your life. How's your money? How's your relationships? How's your spirituality? How's your health? And those are subconscious programs. I was watching a video the other night by Dr. Bruce Lipton, cellular biologist, and he was saying, babies, when they're born, they can swim. But what happens with parents and their babies? Keep them away from water. We don't want them to drown, right? And we instill this fear in our children that water is dangerous. Don't go near the water, right? And then he says when they're about 5 years old, we're like, awesome, it's time for swimming lessons. We're going to push you in the pool. And they're crying and grabbing onto us with a death grip. Why? Because their whole life we've been telling them it's so dangerous. And now we're saying like, no, it's safe. You can go do it. We're going to teach you how. And so we get these beliefs in our subconscious from really in utero to about 8 years old when our mind is in a theta state. And that's like a hypnotic state. We're completely programmable. Anything we hear, see, feel that's acted out in front of us becomes our program. Just like the language we speak is the language that's spoken in our house. Well, we also learn the language of self-esteem, and we also learn the language of health. That same Dr. Bruce Lipton says that a child who's adopted into a family that has heart disease also gets heart disease. Not because it's in their genes. It's a learned behavior from the family. It's fascinating. So
wow.
we have this subconscious power that we don't really realize what the programs are in there, and we consciously try to live our life. We try to be more mindful. We try. And this doctor who helped me heal, he always tells me trying is lying. Why? Because it's not in alignment with who you really are. It's not your program. It's not your automatic. If it was your automatic, you would just do it. You wouldn't have to try to do it. And so in our work, we focus on what people want different in their life. And then we have a process where we can actually help them program that into their subconscious mind. We also can help them tap into their divinity and purpose and see if they're on the right track and what needs to change, because we have this higher knowing and it's not conscious. And so when we're trying to make a decision, when we're young, like, what career do we choose? Or even when we're older, like me in this process, what do I do? If I'm not going to be in real estate, what is the right path for me? Where is my purpose? And that's all stuff we can tap into through the subconscious mind with a muscle test. And we can do it remotely. We don't even have to be in person. We can get into surrogation for you, tap into your energy field, muscle test ourselves on your behalf, and help you understand these answers. And then it's just like this knowing helps you decide consciously, like, if this is my greatest divinity and purpose, do I want to follow that? And hopefully the answer is yes, because that's where you find joy in your life.
Well, this is the signal that we are coming up on the break. So while you're on the break, please consider supporting Truth Frequency Radio and Spirit's Journey. You're listening to Spirit's Journey on Truth Frequency Radio and Oneness Talk Radio. We'll see you on the other side.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
We are back from the break. If you are just joining us, this is Spirit's Journey with Patrick and Catherine Andrews, and today we have Jenny Harkleroad. And so, Jenny, I have a follow-up question for you from what we were talking about with the subconscious mind. This has been fascinating stuff. I know I'm riveted here today. And so my question is that a lot of times we hear about the unconscious mind as well. People talk about the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind. So are they the same thing in your perspective, or are they different?
Yeah, in my mind, they're the same. The subconscious and the unconscious mind, it's the part of us that's below our awareness. And I was speaking with a medical doctor this week, the one who helped me in the beginning to learn this process. And I asked him, I said, why do we block our subconscious or unconscious emotions? Is that just like how we're built? And his response was interesting to me, because I was thinking maybe it's more how we're built, because it seems like everybody blocks their subconscious emotions. At least a lot of the clients that I see who are suffering with chronic pain and a lot of anxiety and worry and all these conditions that they can't seem to find a solution to. And he said that he believed it was more of a trained behavior. Like when we're young and we try to express ourselves, sometimes our parent is like, hey, it's not appropriate to talk like that. Like, that's not how you act. Don't say that. And sometimes we misunderstand what they're saying, and we take it as we can't be in touch with our feelings, and we start to block those feelings. And then just like anything else in the subconscious or unconscious mind, it becomes, the more we do it, it becomes a habit or a pattern. So the subconscious, it's so powerful, it's so helpful in so many ways. I mean, you learn to walk and then you can walk. You don't have to think about it. Your conscious mind can be on something else. You learn to drive a car, and once you got it down, you don't have to think about it. You can drive across town and be on the phone. thinking about something else, talking to a passenger, and be like, oh my gosh, I'm home and I don't even remember the route I took. You know, it's helpful in so many ways. In music, I play the flute. I play like once a year, but I played so much when I was young that I can pick it up and play like I play every day because it's a subconscious habit or program. So anything that's underneath our awareness, I believe, is subconscious, unconscious. To me, it's the same.
Okay. Well, we have something.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, so Jenny, I wanted to ask you, your story is fascinating, and obviously you chose a really huge wake-up call, to break your back. And I know we see in our practice working with people that it's usually people come to us, when there's, trauma, there's a tragedy. And so I'm curious if you also find that in your work. I'm sure people who are healthy and happy don't come to you and say, I need to be reprogrammed. So why is it as humans that we need these major wake-up calls before we take action? And what can we do to change that around and talk to people and say, don't wait for the wake-up calls?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think one thing to realize is that you can change your life in a very simple and powerful and effective way with the power of the subconscious mind. And so your life doesn't have to be bad to make changes, but I think everybody on the planet has areas of their life that they would like to improve. And so maybe a good question to ask yourself is, what would I like better in my life? What would I like to improve upon? And be willing to spend a little bit of time and money to get to that next level of joy. And I love when clients say, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how much better it could be. Like, I would have done this sooner if I would have known. Like, I didn't even realize the pain I was in because I've always felt that, and it just kind of felt normal. So I just kind of thought, like, going through the motions, I was pretty happy. Life was pretty good. But now this sense of peace and happiness I am experiencing, like, oh my gosh, I pinch myself. So if you want, I have to pinch myself to make sure I'm not dreaming kind of life, you can have that. You don't have to live a pretty good life. You can make it even better. And, like you said, don't be as stubborn as me and have to break your back to have this awakening. And that could just be as simple as, writing down some goals. What would I like better in my life? We can help you reprogram those into your subconscious. They become your automatic, as easy literally as blinking your eyes. Do you think about blinking your eyes? Not unless something's wrong with your eyes, right? Not unless there's some issue going on. It's just automatic, it happens. So when you program these things into your subconscious mind, they're automatic and they just happen. And it's funny because sometimes I'll run into people a couple years later and when they see me, they're like, oh my gosh, I used to have that problem and it's so gone now. I forgot I even had it. And just seeing you was like, I forgot. It's so normal now to be how I want things to be. So take advantage of the up-leveling of your life that you can do. You can find a whole new level of success and divinity and peace and purpose and happiness than you even realize at the current state that you're at. So I guess all we can do is encourage people, but it's true that pain moves us. The doctor I worked with, he always told me, you're so brave and courageous to do this. And I said, no, I'm desperate.
Right. It's this or that, right?
Yeah.
So, Jenny, one thing that we have in common, I have a background in physics and biology, and one of my favorite physicists is Albert Einstein because he was so willing to examine metaphysics and a lot of the principles that I've dedicated my life to studying and teaching. And before we started the show, you said that you had a favorite quote from Einstein that you wanted to share. So could you share that quote and then explain what the significance is with the subconscious mind?
Yeah, the quote that I love from Albert Einstein, one of my favorites, is perception is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. And the reason I love that quote is it explains my previous life. Like, I was struggling with things and they were so real to me, And they were so concrete and solid with, proof. Here's the MRI. Here's the X-ray. Here's the proof. And really, it was all an illusion, because as soon as I reprogrammed my subconscious mind, even though I had hard proof, even though I had an MRI, all the pain vanished. And so sometimes what we think is happening is not what we think is happening. We consciously have a story to tell. We're the narrator of our life, right? Something happens and we describe it to ourselves. We make up a story. And we make up the story to the best of our perception and knowledge. But our perception might be a complete illusion. And you can think about perception as like, if you've ever been to the eye doctor and they're like, can you see better through number 1 or number 2? Number 1 or number 2? You go back and forth, like, where is there a clear picture in your perception? And if you say go out with your friends and you go see a Broadway play and then you go to dinner after and you're discussing it and you say, okay, what was your favorite part? Probably most people are going to have a different favorite part. Their perception is based on their experiences, all that they've had in their life, all that they've come with, all that they've been through. And so, you could even say a favorite color. What's your favorite color? Well, obviously red is the best color, I think. That's just my perception, right? You might have a different perception than that. And so when we want to see things different, with the power of our subconscious mind, we can change our perception. And I'll tell you one area of my life that was huge, totally life-changing for, was in my marriage. I struggled in my marriage for 20 years, all right? I was persistent. I was not going to give up. I believed in family. I wanted to make it work, but I was feeling miserable. And I finally decided to throw in the towel. And thank goodness I found the process that I use today, the method of mind reprogramming that we do. And I was able in a weekend to change my perception of my marriage. Now, take note that I wasn't trying to change my perception of my marriage. I was trying to heal myself. And when I healed my self-esteem and self-worth and flushed out my past traumas and dramas, it changed the perception of my marriage. And when I came home to tell my husband that I was out, all I saw was love for him. And it fascinated me. I thought, wait a second, he wasn't there. We didn't fix him. He's the problem. Wait a second. Maybe he wasn't the problem. Maybe 20 years of struggle was my perception of all of our interactions. And I'm telling you, it's been honeymoon ever since, and we're about to celebrate 25 years now. So we had 20 brutal years and 5 wonderful years. Thank goodness. And, the crazy thing is I'd always tell him how unhappy I was. And he would say, I don't understand. Why are you so unhappy? Doesn't seem that bad from my end. And it was all my perception. It was the past wounds I had. I came in so wounded that the littlest thing he would do, it would just pour salt in my wound, and I couldn't handle it. And so perception, changing the perception of the subconscious mind, changes what we see. It's like putting on those glasses. 3 of my 4 kids wear glasses, and when my second daughter got glasses, she was in her car seat. She was that little, and she saw crumbs for the first time. And she was fascinated. She was looking at them and touching them and picking them up. It was like a whole new perception of all these little things in the world that she didn't know existed. And you can change your perception of your life. And when you see something different, you react different, you respond different. And when you react and respond different, others react and respond different to you. So you are the change that you're looking to see.
That's so interesting because, I always go back to the example of, there's a car accident and 5 people saw it and 5 people saw different things. And I was talking with a metaphysical teacher recently, and we were talking about, if I hold up an eraser And I ask people, okay, how many erasers do you see? Let's say there's 6 people in the room and everybody says 1 eraser. And I would say, well, actually, I think that's false. I think you're all seeing 6 different erasers, the one in my hand, or actually 7, the one in my hand and the one in each one of your minds. And so it's like we're seeing the world through these glasses of our perception. And so most of us aren't even responding from our true selves. We're responding from this lens, which we're not even aware is there. And so it's like we're not even really living in the present moment of what's really going on. We're living through these filters, and these filters that we're living through could be, lifetimes of beliefs from the past that is not even what is going on in the present. Is that kind of accurate?
That is exactly accurate. It's so true. And if you can't see things clearly, then your perception is skewed. And again, you respond in a different way than if you saw it how it maybe actually is. So this perception is fascinating. And, one thing that I reprogrammed in myself that was so helpful in relationships was to be open and curious. So it was kind of like take away that lens. And when somebody says something or does something, it's like, oh, that's interesting, instead of, I can't believe they said that, or why would they do that, or I think they should, based on all these perceptions I had. It was just like this curiosity. I felt like a child again. When people speak, I'm like, oh, tell me about that. So it's not my perception getting in the way. It's this curiosity. It's a beautiful thing. So I love that.
I have a favorite quote from Einstein, too, that relates to perception. And so, his quote one time, he said that the more I learn about physics, the more interested I become in metaphysics. And that always fascinated me, because here were these great minds in physics, and they discovered this whole new field of quantum mechanics. And so they collectively had been trained that the world is very mechanical. And so that was all based on Newtonian physics. It was very mechanical, kind of relating to like the industrial age, if you think about machines and things. So then they entered this whole new realm where the world was really just energy, and they were trying to figure out how to understand what they were seeing and how to describe that. And so in a lot of the texts, as I was reading back through their discovery process, they were going in the laboratory and seeing all these weird things happening that were totally contradictory to everything that they thought they knew about the world and how it worked. And so I was surprised to find that they would actually consult metaphysical texts and metaphysical teachers to try to find some way of describing and understanding what it was that they were seeing in the laboratory. So quantum mechanics and metaphysics are really close related. So it's just interesting. We're talking about the health of the body and how the subconscious mind affects the health of the body. But it really, our subconscious mind and our perceptions go far deeper than that. A lot of people describe it as going down the rabbit hole, because there's just so many things that are affected and shifted as we shift our perceptions. It's really a fascinating study.
Yeah, and I remember a study, and it's been a while, so hopefully I'll get it right, but I believe they were trying to figure out if this energy was like in a particle form or in a wave form, and based on what they thought it was is actually what they saw. So the ones who thought it was a particle saw particles, and the ones who thought it was a wave, it was a wave. It was like, wow, your perception is creating this reality. Fascinating.
Yeah, when I was studying physics when I was in college, it was interesting because that's called the particle wave theory now, because it's just accepted that energy behaves as both a particle and a wave. Like light, for example, can behave as a particle or a wave. And so I was questioning my fellow students about this, and everybody was just like, well, that's just the way it is. Nobody really thought, well, what are the implications of this? And even the early quantum mechanical founders who were writing the early theory, they understood that it was based on their perception. And they described it as, it's like when we look at it, it becomes a particle. If we're not looking at it, it behaves as a wave. So it's like they were understanding that their interference with the experiment actually changed the outcome of the experiment. And so,
Absolutely.
they understood. So I think the the repercussions of that we are still feeling. And, this is the same kind of thing that we're talking about. Well, how does that affect the body? The body is matter, and it's coalesced into this apparently physical form. But if we change our thoughts about what's going on, how do we change the outcome? And I think you gave us a really strong example of that. You had this complete 180 turn in your health because you started shifting your perception and your perspective of what was happening.
Yeah, and since we're getting sciencey, let's just stay there for a minute. And, if you study Bruce Lipton's work, The Biology of Belief, he talks about how a signal comes to the cell and there's a receptor, and that receptor basically, based on your perception, decides what to do with that message. So we used to think it was based on what was in our DNA, but Bruce describes that our DNA is just a blueprint. And then our cell is the contractor that decides how they're actually going to carry this message forward, what they're going to do with it. I believe he said there's like 3,000 different options. And so if you look at, he talks about disease, 5% of people are born with disease, but 95% of people die from disease. So we're actually rewriting our genes in a negative way. We have cells that rewrite genes. So instead of the message comes in and we see it in a positive way, we see it in a fight or flight way, which changes our chemistry and changes our biology and causes disease in our lives. So we have the power to rewrite our genes by our perception. It's that powerful.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's actually too, they talk about different genes that can be switched on and off. So like, for example, my family history, my lineage has like heart disease and diabetes in my family tree. But those genes that give you the potential for predisposition to heart disease or some kind of any genetic disorder, it's like those genes can be switched on or off. And so what we're really talking about is a method to be able to consciously, set the direction. It's like, am I going to buy into this just because genetically this particular marker is there? Do I have to accept that? Do I activate that? Or do I do whatever it is? It's like, you can't just think, oh, I need to turn this off. But through like what you were talking about, your path was really shifting your perception. Like when you were talking about shifting your perception of your relationship with your husband, and then all of a sudden the actual dynamics of your relationship changed. So it's really that inner work, understanding, well, what is it that I need to change within myself to reflect the kind of life that I really want to live?
And the important thing to remember too is it's not only like thinking about your perception and how you would rather perceive things, but it's actually about changing it in the subconscious. So I'm going to let you know that if you go to changethatbrain.com, it's a little bot, Facebook Messenger bot of me. It takes you through an exercise that can help you start to reprogram the subconscious mind. So if you have Facebook Messenger, it'll work. Just go to changethatbrain.com, click on start, and it's going to ask you, what do you want different? That's the most important question to start with. And then it's going to take you through an exercise where you can describe that goal to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious is sensory. And if it doesn't understand the goal, you might as well give it instructions in a language you don't know. It can't carry out the goal. So if you go through those steps and your subconscious understands the change, then you're ready to make the change. So we have several ways to help people actually make the change. A lot of people out there are business owners. It's a big area of people that we work with. And business owners are looking to create more success in their business. And they're looking to create more ease in their business. There are so many business owners we work with that are like, oh my gosh, it is so hard to be an entrepreneur. And if you believe that, if that is your perception, guess what? It's going to be so hard to be a business owner. So we have an event coming up in San Diego. It's in October. It's called Beyond Limits Live. The website is beyondlimits.live. It's a 3-day event for business owners to transform their perception of their prosperity in their business. And we're going to be talking about how to reprogram the mind for business success. Right now, we have an early bird special on our tickets. They're basically free. All you need is a seat deposit, and when you arrive, you get a check back with your seat deposit. So it's a free event when you get there. And we're going to be talking all about how to reprogram the subconscious mind for success. Now, if you're not a business owner and you're not interested in greater financial success, we work with clients on relationships, on health and wellness, on self-esteem, on their divinity and purpose and spirituality. Your subconscious controls all areas of your life. So if you would like to speak to one of our mind reprogramming experts about what's working in your life and what's not working in your life and what you want different in your life, you can go to our main website, which is balancedU.org. It's BALANCEDYOU.org. And just go to the appointment tab, schedule a free 30-minute call. And we will help you figure out what you can do to transform your perception, to change what's going on in the subconscious so that it supports you. Because literally the subconscious is like a tidal wave of power. And you are like a person on the beach in your swim trunks thinking, yeah, I can not get knocked over by this tidal wave. It's that powerful, and it's not possible not to be affected by your subconscious programming. So if you want to change your life, if you want to get to a place of more money, more time, more freedom, more happiness, more peace, more ease, better relationships, attracting the relationships that you want, the power is in your subconscious mind. So start there, because that's 95 to 99% of your success. That is where you want to go, that subconscious power. It's like a locomotive versus a penny on the track. Do you start with a penny, or do you start with a locomotive when you're tapping into power? You start with the locomotive.
And it's so interesting, Jenny, because, I have found working with people of all walks of life that there's always one area in life where they're having problems. Like I work with people who are extremely successful in their business, but their personal life is in shambles, or their personal life is great, but their business is going down the tubes. Or there always seems to be one area. It's kind of interesting. So I feel like anybody can benefit from the subconscious work, because if we were perfect, we wouldn't still be here on this earth. We've all got stuff to work on. And so rather than waiting for that wake-up call, look for that area of life that seems to be sucking your energy, or there's something not quite right. And just, as you said, level it up.
Yes, absolutely. It's so fascinating to realize, that amount of power that I spoke about. I mean, you think about like magnets, right? When you try to put magnets together, flip them one way and they like repel each other, right? Flip it the other way and it comes together with ease, and you can let go with one hand, right? It's just like that easy. So that area of your life that's like that magnet flipped over, that's like, why is this always a thing? How come this won't line up? Instead of like, I'm going to ignore it, or that's just how life is, it's like, well, you could go that way, or you could just flip it over and make it a non-issue. So I love knowing that we have that much power within us, that subconscious power. We can change anything.
Well, Jenny, thank you for being with us today, and we love having all of you with us too. So please connect with us on Facebook at Spirits Journey Radio. Be sure to like our page so we can be part of your life. You can study with us and find out more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com. This has been Spirits Journey Live. I'm Patrick Andrews.
Catherine, thanks for joining.